we have unveiled a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for Soupy Sales.
I want to thank you all very much. This means so much to me, and I appreciate this from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you very much for this honor, and you made me the happiest man in the world. And I just want you to know I certainly appreciate this, and I appreciate you folks coming out today and to meet you again, and to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you've done for me. And my family appreciates this. Of course, I appreciate my family. And I want to say thanks to everybody for all the years and all the great times that I've been afforded here in Detroit. And for that matter of fact, for all around the country. And I hope that you folks will always remember me as I remember you, and love you as well as love me this way. I love you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So you're just a couple of years ago, 2005, and Soupy passed away just a couple hours ago. And we are very sad, of course, but more than that, we are gathered as a family tonight. And we got Paul Dver, who produced Soupy's show for a number of years, especially the radio show, and all of his other things that he did, the on-the-road appearances, the video vault. And it's been a struggle because nobody wanted to say anything about his illness for a number of years. Everybody wanted to just respect his family and his wishes to be private. So now that he's passed, we can talk a little bit about it. And his great wife, Trudy, who was a former Rockette, everybody knows that, I think, and has stayed with him famously for these years since tragedy struck when he was at the Emmy Awards. And you hear him now after we had a struggle getting him to California for the In-Star ceremony, and that was a really tough deal. He was not mobile. And people went through lots of changes to get him there. And if he sounded a little off and didn't sound like Soupy Sales as you knew him from television with the jokes and all of that stuff, you were right. He was not able to perform, but he was always a gentleman and a professional, and he had a wonderful sense of humor and a great gift. So with that, Trudy stayed by him, and it continues. Now, I don't know if I got this right. Goldie Dver is here tonight, also good friends. You know, we're all good friends. And Mickey Freeman is one of Soupy's best friends, but met him after Paul. I mean, Paul worked with him for years. So, Goldie, let me ask you something from the woman's point of view, because something happened to him in the Emmy Awards backstage, I think, afterwards. What was that?
Well, actually, Paul was there that day. He fell backstage. Stairs were improperly lit. He was coming off stage. He fell down the steps, had a serious injury, wound up in the emergency room that night, had surgery, and that was really the beginning of the illnesses. Everything seemed to start to sort of go downhill from there.
So what illnesses did he have, Paul? What was it that he had?
When he started having so many surgeries, you know, when you have surgery and people say good luck and the family comes, sits in the waiting room, it's no joke that, you know, the best surgeons, the best doctors will often, something happens during surgery. God forbid it should ever happen to someone you love. But it can happen. So when you're going to have a number of surgeries, in the span of a year or 2 years, you're really upping your chance of other symptoms that will start to occur because you've been operated on. Whether his Parkinson's disease promoted the strokes or the mini heart attacks, but the Parkinson's, it was a strange involvement because it did. First, his timing changed, and he couldn't. His breathing changed.
It was strange. He didn't have the typical shaking Parkinson's. It affected his voice capacity.
He couldn't. But no, the first thing was that the timing changed. Then he couldn't project. And they started saying, well, he needs surgery in his throat or his lungs, more surgeries. And I said, it's not something you can operate on. It has to do with his whole breathing.
Breath capacity.
His timing had changed, so his breathing had changed. So they eventually figured out that was Parkinson's.
But through it all, he still kept performing.
He did.
He would, the pro that you said he was, he would modify whatever he needed to still.
And he performed, and he did acts, and for a while it was okay. I mean, the audience didn't notice that. They said he's older, but he could still stand up there like Rodney Dangerfield, Henny Youngman, and just rattle off the jokes, and the audience went crazy. Then he couldn't be heard, and then it became a problem. But when we did the video vault, it really was because he still wanted to perform. And I would tell to the audience before the show started that Soupy had an accident, and he's not the same Soupy. So if you expect to see him up here doing the mouse, that's not what he does anymore. But, when he comes out and talks to you, those 10 minutes, it means a lot to him. He loves it. He loves being in front of the audience and being with his fans. So if you feel like you want to show him the love, then you're in for a good time.
And so what you did, you structured a show where you had him sit on a stool and people asked him questions too.
Right.
Matter of fact.
And then
you showed all the videos of everything from Judy Garland, Frank Sinatra, and all the famous stars and the Hollywood years of great television.
Yeah, well, it wasn't fair that because I had the clips from my association with him. I knew him since I'm 16. I met him when I was working for Dick Schaap as his intern at NBC Radio. No, it was actually NBC Sports, and Soupy came in to do a halftime show, and I met him when I was 16. So we became fast friends by the time I was 18, 20, and we started working together by the time I was 21. And we created a nightclub act and a concert show, which was the only thing he hadn't really done. He had appeared on Broadway, he had made movies, and certainly put in more hours on television than any other performer ever in the history of the medium. But he never had a stage show or a stand-up act that he felt could compete with the greats, and he certainly was capable. So, I just assisted in showing him a trick or two with music, and boy, we took off, and the act became a working machine, and everybody wanted to see him. Other comedians would be so jealous that Soupy would pack in fans like the Beatles were coming. They had never seen Soupy live, and here he was coming to their town. And it was quite exciting working with him and seeing the reaction from the fans. I mean, they would grab me after I did the show with him. I played piano or conduct the band. And they'd come up to me and grab me. And it happened more than 20 times a night. Does he know how important he was to me growing up, or how my mother watched him every day when she was dying? She loved him. He touched America in a way that no other kiddie show host did.
Yeah, so what was he most famous for? He'll always be remembered. Johnny Grant said that. Johnny passed away this last year.
I know, that was
the mayor of Hollywood. And he said at the in-star ceremony, which we did not play on the air tonight, we didn't play that part, but Johnny said he's most famous, he'll always be remembered for his creativity of the children's television, which was really for adults.
Right.
Well, he did the children's show, but he forgot children were watching sometimes.
Yeah.
He started to do a live half-hour improvisation that Frank Sinatra had to shut down the set because Soupy's on, and he never wanted to miss how this guy, I mean, Soupy would sweat. Frank Nastasi, everybody working. Nobody knew exactly how the show was going to play. And you do that one day, you have a heart attack, and it's a good show. He did this, 5 times a week, 6 times. Channel 5 had a Saturday hour-long show.
And then when he was doing 2 shows a day?
He did 2 shows in Detroit. He was on it for the kids, and then at night they had Soups on, which was like a Tonight Show.
Yeah.
He did 2. He'd come home, he'd take a nap, and then go back and do the sketches for the night show. It was amazing what this man was capable of doing. But as I said, the nightclub act was something that I think meant more to him because he had a chance to see the fans. He didn't know how big he was when he was at his peak.
Well, you knew when he sent the kids to their father's pockets to take money out and mail it to him. He knew how big he was when he got. He said he only got $80,000. I said, I think you lied about it. I got about $2 million.
What a moment that was! The actor Bruno Kirby, who also passed away this past year. Bruno was in a lot of movies with Robert De Niro. He said, "Do you know that I was picketing Channel 5 when they suspended Soupy? We were throwing tomatoes. Does Soupy know how much I love him?"
Yeah, because he got on the air and he asked people to go to their father's pockets and their mother's pocketbooks.
Well, wait a minute. He didn't do it like a criminal. He said it's New Year's Day. Last night was New Year's Eve. I know your parents are still in bed sleeping. They said you have 1 minute, and he had nothing to do. So he just went to the camera. He said, your parents are still sleeping. I want you to tiptoe into the bedroom. Don't wake them up. Tiptoe in there. Go into you'll see the pants on the floor, the wallets on the table. Go into the wallet. You'll see all these green pieces of paper. And you'll see guys with beards. And he says, you take those pictures of the guys with beards out, and you put it in an envelope. And you get a crayon, a pencil, or a pen. And you write on the envelope, Soupy Sales. He said, SOUPY SALES. And he says, you know what I'm going to send you? A postcard from Puerto Rico.
We'll be right back. Joey Reynolds Show from New York. Everybody's favorite comic, Soupy Sales, passed away. Another little footnote here. This is a private broadcast because most people don't know him the way that Paul Dver and Goldie knew him as best of friends. And myself, too. I'm a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, he loved you.
Now, this little star in ceremony in Hollywood was held on the streets. And down the block is the Max Factor warehouse,
really?
Which they turned into the Museum of Motion Pictures in Hollywood. And it used to be the old Mary Pickford Studios and Douglas Fairbanks. They had
Silence.
The beginning of United Artists Pictures. So in that building, which is now the Motion Picture Museum, Soupy Sales, after we left the Indian Star, we went over there for another ceremony. They unveiled this
display?
Museum. No. The studio, the motion picture museum opened that day. And what they did was they unveiled there was a huge department store size window of Soupy Sales' television set because he had made a movie. So he qualified to be in that because he had made a film. But he was so legendary and so well loved by everybody in Hollywood that they wanted to find a way to get him in there anyway, Yeah. And he was probably the only outsider that was inside. I mean, I think Johnny Carson made one movie, for instance. They probably
he did make
they find a way to get you in there if they want you. So Soupy they found a way to put in here. But the irony is that Soupy Sales had a son, Tony.
Two sons.
A couple sons, but Tony was married to Tyrone Power's daughter.
Yeah.
So right across from the Soupy Sales set where his television was is the Pirates, which is the motion picture that Tyrone Power starred in.
Tyrone Power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was right juxtaposed, and Soupy cried when they opened the curtains, and he's sitting there in the wheelchair, with Trudy, and we all were standing there, and it was such a touching moment. And when And I thought it was ironic to see Tyrone Power's thing right next door. And
Tyrone
then,
Power was like the biggest star in Hollywood.
And his son was there. Tony was there.
Yeah.
Both boys.
Well, when the grandkids go, they have both granddads right there.
So you got a grandchild whose grandfather is Soupy Sales, the other grandfather's Tyrone Power.
Right.
I mean,
you have to really say
cool.
that slower.
Right.
Yeah.
That there are children out there right now whose grandfathers are not with us anymore, but Soupy Sales and Tyrone Power are my grandpas.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
all right, now on the Soupy passed away a couple hours ago in Calvary, the hospice.
Yeah.
Very private, quiet, and Paul did something which I'm going to bring on the air here. Paul had taken and edited down, to my surprise, he got in the car and we were driving there the other day, and he had edited down about 4 hours of things that even Soupy probably forgot he had done. I certainly didn't know. Some of them never made television.
Right.
And he put this 4 hours together. He worked, must have done, I don't know how long he worked on it, but it was a great presentation. And he played it for Soupy this other day, and we all were amazed at the show, first of all. But Soupy was in and out. He was drifting in and out.
Yeah.
And it's been playing in his room now for up until his death.
That's
tonight,
what they told me, that tonight, the last thing, and I have to tell you, that's what I planned, was that, because what I put in this DVD were interviews through the years, about 20 years of Soupy in conversation, not performing, not doing bits, no pies. It was him talking to different talk show hosts, and you really saw who he was and how funny he was to hang with or to talk to, because he was. I don't know anybody who met him and didn't love him more than even watching him on TV. That he often, you're funnier off the camera, off TV.
Yeah.
And he didn't appreciate that. I'm knocking my brains out. This guy's sounding funny without it. But he hadn't seen many of these clips because they were done on live TV and whatever. And the way I put them together was that it was watchable. 4 hours. It could just keep rolling, and if he woke up, he would catch a half hour of this or 20. I wanted him to see himself.
When we talked tonight about going to see him tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we were talking.
Well, wasn't it weird? Because I called you an hour before he died, and I said, I have a feeling that we might not make tomorrow.
I said, let's go on Saturday. He says, I don't think he's going to make tomorrow, which is...
No, you said maybe we should go tonight at 5 when you finished. I said, well, I got dental surgery.
So I don't know. I mean, we have such great loss, and we knew he was in a hospice. You have to know that that's the end.
Yeah, that's a grim thing, but it's also good if you're waning, that you know you have top-notch care.
It's peaceful.
And peaceful. You're not going to be feeling like,
And Calvary really is an amazing place, and they really care for the family as well as the patient, because everyone's going through it. It's not, And I did want to say one thing, Joey, before we leave the subject of illness and caring for someone who's ill.
And since you have cancer, and you're recovering.
Yeah, I'm recovered from cancer. So, but that's not the thing. Trudy, I have to just say, is truly the most amazing person I have ever witnessed, because it's difficult when you take care of someone who is waning and who is chronically ill and very ill, and to see someone you love deteriorate. And Trudy, through everything, it wasn't just the amazing care that she gave him. She made sure that Soupy always had his humanity. And she never treated him like a patient. He was always her husband. She always involved him in everything. Yeah. Every time you called the house, Soupy's on the phone. Say hello to him. Soupy, did you hear this? And always, and that was so, so important. And she loves him. That was a love story like I have never seen in my life.
Trudy is a miracle and kept Soupy happy and alive with a decent quality of life long after his illness began. But I really want to finish by saying that it was great talking about him and how funny he was, but he really was more important than we think. He was my best friend, so it's selfish in a way to say I'll miss him. America loved him. I saw it up close. And they came, and when they saw that he wasn't well, the sincere love that they felt for him, he should be regarded as one of the great comic icons, not as a kiddie show host. And I know the memorandums and the memoriams and the obituaries are going to start, and they're going to say kiddie show host. And I think it should be stated that he was a one-of-a-kind comic force and television star that we won't see the likes of again.
And a footnote here about the Friars, he was, what was he, an abbot or something?
Dean? Or
he was one of the big shots there.
One of the royalty,
a couple of years ago when he was able to.
Oh, yeah, all my friends.
I forget his
Frankie
title.
Hodak is here tonight. Frankie.
I love Frankie Hodak.
Frankie made him laugh, because he did this impression with the...
At one of the
Soupy Sales celebration.
Right.
That was such an honor to be a part of that, and I could see the joy in Soupy's eyes, just somebody else recreating something new and different.
Oh,
but
he
in the
hasn't
same
seen you
genre.
before, Frankie.
And we've had lunch a few times where at the Friars Club.
I hope that Soupy rests in peace and raises a lot of hell in heaven. Let us smile over here and bellow, but don't get a mouthful right.